interviewed those pharmaceutical company representatives, and we use their answer to develop our survey questions. So the interview will help you to develop your survey questions. This is, we call it exploratory. Exploratory, we explore.
Sequential.
Sequential. I have another experience about the national pharmaceutical company in Iraq. And we conducted the survey first. And when we got the survey, we analyzed the survey about the people, patient perception about the national medicine in Iraq. Some of them, they say we don't trust them. Some of them, they say it's good, they have good reputation, they are cheap, whatever. We took the people answer of the survey to the stakeholder, to the pharmaceutical company, national pharmaceutical company, pharmaceutical industry. We ask them, why do you think people believe such and such about the national medicine? So it's explanatory. We ask them to explain what we got in the survey of the quantitative data. So the first project with Dr. Kauthar, Dr. Shab, Dr. Mohammed Kamil, we published already. We asked the survey first, then we did the interviews. The one about falsified, we conducted the interviews because it's a really vague area, and we needed to explore, so-called exploratory. So I think standard in comparison, keep in mind, we have different terminologies. For example, in quantitative data, you will know about internal validity, reliability, Cronbach alpha, external validity, objectivity. We have different terms for these terms in qualitative. We use credibility, we use transferability, dependability, confirmability. So everything about the standards of the quantitative part, we have different terminology in the qualitative part. So in the quantitative, we use content validity, convergent, concurrent, predictive, discriminant, test, retest, internal consistency, inter-rate reliability. Here we have confirmability, credibility, transferability. Those standards, I think you are not familiar with the quantitative at the first place. So it's very hard for you, I think, to follow me, because I think you are not familiar with both sides. Because we need really a good lecture about those standards. Every methodology journal, for example, Research in Social and Administrative Pharmacy, we call it RSAP, I'm one of their reviewers. This method journals, they care about the methods. They always, when you do study, they always looking for standards of quality. Do you have good content validity, good reliability? They always looking for those Cronbach alpha or factor analysis. They always, they need to make sure you tested your study and your study is valid, reliable. So they're always looking for those. So make sure when you submit your journal, your manuscript to one of the high quality journal, you make sure to include answer to those questions. Have you conducted pilot study? You need to know or prepare your answer before you submit. Otherwise, you will get the comment. Why we do mixed method? Why we just do quantitative? Why we have to spend time, money, resources, efforts to deal with the qualitative? Qualitative, it's really not easy part. For example, at my PhD study, when I was sitting with my thesis committee and I was defending my proposal, and my proposal include mixed method at that time. One of the committee member, he is my master degree supervisor, Dr. Sorofman. He told me, you don't have time to do mixed method, so stick with the quantitative. And he was joking, say, I need to be in your thesis defense before I get retired, because he was like almost at his retired age at that time. So why we need to do qualitative plus quantitative? We call it, we need to do triangulation. Triangulation, that's mean we need data from more than one source to have corroboration, convergent, corresponding. We need to have more robust answer. For example, when I talked about substandard falsified, both participants, we need to use this language in our point of integration of the discussion. You need to always bring to your audience, you conducted mixed method. So you conducted two different methods, you have two different analyses, you have two different results, but you must integrate those at the discussion. When you talk about them, you need to say those both participants from focus group, from the interviews, and from the survey, they agreed about the reason of substandard falsified. So this one will give you more robust support to your finding. It's not only people here in the interview, they both agreed about this one. So this is the triangulation. Complementary, seek, elaboration, enhancement, it's same meaning. Development, for example, if I don't have survey about substandard falsified, or the available survey is not customized according to my audience. How can I customize according to my audience? I need to listen to people in the field before I can customize my survey. So if you, for example, the topic I selected for you, about the challenges of people at the community pharmacy. We need to listen, then develop survey. Purposive initiation, if we have no idea, and people paradox, we have people disagreed or contradiction, we have two different theory. We need to listen. We need to have two different sources. Expansion, for example, I have my survey results. I could stop at this part, but I needed to listen to Iraqi National Pharmaceutical Company representative to explain why Iraqi patients, they don't prefer, for example, the national medicine as a first choice. Because they explained to us, because the physician recommended for them, because the physician believed in brand, because the pharmacists don't recommend it because they are less beneficial for them. The national one, they get like less benefit or profit for pharmacists or physician. So they explain the quantitative results. In general, we have two sources of information. It doesn't have to be sequential. The two phases, qualitative, quantitative, it could be they are parallel, we call it simultaneously, or they are dependent, sequential. Dependent, that's mean I cannot conduct the survey unless I get the analysis of the qualitative. I cannot do the qualitative unless I have the results of the survey. Dependence, I have to do sequential. Phase 1, phase 2. Not dependent, independent, we can do them together. Timing, we have sequential, we have concurrent. Sequential, one after one, phase 1, phase 2. Concurrent, that's mean at the same time. I will use some terminology here. Can you see this plus sign? Plus sign mean concurrent. When I say qual plus Seq1, that means we are doing this at the same time. Why do you think we use uppercase or capital letter for this one, and we use small letter for this one? Why do you think? Why we just use both qual? The same, like both, even the Q here, why it's small? I know it's a new topic for you, but just guess. Why one is big, one is small? This face is big, major. This face is minor. So the interviews are the main source. The survey, it's a minor one. It's side one. They both could be equal, or one of them could be major, one of them could be minor. Keep in mind, they don't have to be equal. One of them could be the major or face, the other one could be the smaller minor. This exclamation sign means those are sequential. We used to use this arrow, sequential, but it seems this is more common now. That means we have qual. Either they are dependent. What do you mean by dependent? I just explained it. Dependent is sequential. I have to finish the first one because the second one relies on the data of the first one. If they are not dependent, independent, we can do them concomitantly or parallel. So they are independent or dependent. It depends on your. Okay, من تقول لي أنا واقف. Point of integration. I already talked about point of integration. We have two phases. We have two methodology. You have choice. Either you integrate them, for example, at the method section, or integrate them at the result section, or integrate them at the discussion section. For me, what I have experience with, the point of integration was the discussion. Because I had two sources of data, two methodologies, one of them, two different analysis, two different sources, one analysis called statistical analysis, one called thematic analysis. I have two different results. One is numbers, tables. The other one is the themes. I integrated them, point of integration at the discussion. I say the thematic analysis indicated this results. For example, I remember the substandard falsified. Both agreed on the main sources or the main reason of substandard falsified because they are cheap, they are more profitable. We don't have registered medications, we have delay in the registrations. So both sides agreed on these. So when you discuss them, don't discuss them independently. If you discuss them independently and you have everything independent, so why we call it mixed method? Mixed method, you need to mix it at some time, at some point. You need to mix them to support your findings. You say we have two faces and both faces have similar or agreed on this point. This is the strength of the mixed method. You need to justify why you use mixed method at the first place. In the method section, you say, because we don't have an idea about the topic, we did exploratory mixed method. We needed to hear from the participant before we go into quantitative phase. So, keep in mind we have different design. Qual plus quan, we have concomitant. They are equal status. That means they are equal weight. اثنيناتهم مهمات. Qual plus quan, this one is the major. We call it qualitatively driven. Plus mean concomitant or parallel. Big quan, small qual, quantitatively driven. Concurrent. Big qual, exclamation, quan, equal status, sequential. And so on. I think we talked. So either they are concomitant, and also we talked about the weight. The weight, which one written in uppercase? سلام عليكم. Which one written in a small case؟ عندك كم بتريد بدل؟ يلا نوقف هنا بين ما تلتقطون أنتم. We already mentioned the types of mixed method design. We have 6 main types of mixed method. Convergent, which is usually parallel. They are independent. They can be conducted at the same time. They are independent, so we can do them at the same time. Explanatory, when we have the first phase is the quantitative, we need to explain the results of quantitative. We do the qualitative. We call the explanatory. Quantitative first, qualitative second. Exploratory, explore, هذا المصطلح طبعا حيتكرر. Explore means we start with the qualitative, explore. To explore something, we need to do qualitative, explore. So even the title of qualitative study different than the quantitative. In quantitative, we usually say assessment, evaluation, measurement. But in the qualitative, we call explore. Explore. The convergent. We have quantitative, qualitative. Quan, because it's uppercase, it's the major. Here is this example. It could be equal size. It could be the opposite. We do data collection and analysis. We do data collection at the same time. We have 2 types of results. We integrate them at the discussion. So we will not wait. For example, you do survey for pharmacists and you do interview for physician at the same time. Then you will write the thesis at the end, because you doing those at the same time, you do analysis at the same time, you have the result at the same time, you will not wait. This, the advantage here, you don't have to wait. So it can be done at the same time. For example, we have study, as I mentioned, at the University of Iowa College of Pharmacy. We conducted survey to health care professional students at the College of Pharmacy, Medicine, Public Health, Nursing. We have survey. At the end of the survey, we have open-ended question. So the survey, we dealt with the survey, which is the major one, quantitatively. We analyze the open-ended questions qualitatively. So the major part quantitative. The smaller part is the qualitative. But we conducted this at the same time. So it's more than parallel or convergent. We publish it in the American Journal of Pharmaceutical Education with Dr. Mary Ray and pharmacy student at that time, Jessica and Miranda. So we usually have theme, sub-theme, selected quotes or comments. For each theme, for example, at the individual level, we have feeling different from peers, different from others. Why they feel differently? Either they don't drink alcohol, abstinence from alcohol, everyone drinks alcohol, and if you go to party, you will find yourself isolated if you don't drink. This is in the United States. If you are international students, may feel differently. If you are from minority group, Asian American, African American. If you are not a traditional students, for example, you are mom of kids, or you are married, you are not traditional. You are old age than your peers. So this sub-themes, the main themes, you feel different, you feel socially isolated. You don't go to their party. If you go, you feel different. So we have some quotation as example. For example, non-traditional students. Since I am non-traditional graduate students, I often feel I don't identify with what the students around me are talking about. Maybe in my old age. Like what they did on the weekend, party, other stuff, or troubles they are having with their roommate. For example, about the minority. Many international students tend to stick together with people of similar nationality. Although one of the major strengths of the graduate program within the college is diversity, sometimes Americans can lose their sense of culture. American, they feel they are minority in some discipline, because this discipline majority of international students. So American, they feel they are minority because the majority, they are internationals. Minority group. Being a minority in a group of primary non-minority students also make discussion on race more difficult. I feel like my interest from film to video games to life philosophy are either not widely shared among my peers or not discussed. Abstinence from alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, so that creates large set of activity in which I'm not invited and I don't participate. So this sentence is really representative to the sub-theme. This quotation is really representative. You can feel the people. Here you can feel in their emotion and their feelings. In the quantitative study, you cannot get such information. Here we can depth of information. They explain the root of the problem. So you can feel people here. It's really more, I feel it more touchy than the quantitative, because people talk about themselves like more open. International. I have recently tried to reach out to my classmate who is experiencing isolation. They are from another country and had difficulties with their roommates, as well as very difficult family circumstances. In addition, they have had issues financially, which I think have been compounded by communication barriers. She talks about her roommates or her classmates, international students. She has problem due to language barrier. So language barrier make you isolated. You cannot speak English frequently. You feel I cannot hang out with my friends because I don't speak English well. So this is the major findings, major themes, sub-themes of our qualitative part of this study. This is the major theme: organization factor. Programs increase isolation, too busy with coursework. Because you are too busy with the coursework, you are socially isolated. At the community level, relocation reduces social support. When you move from one state to another state, you leave your friends, family, and you live now in a new community and you don't have friends, you may feel socially isolated. At the individual level, your personality, you are a shy person, you are employed, you have job, you cannot come to school regularly, you don't see your classmates, feel different from peers, as I mentioned, international students, you don't drink alcohol, you are non-traditional students. At the interpersonal level, faculty relationship, you don't have good faculty, you have competitiveness among your friends. You are competitive, you don't help each other because you are competing on the same chairs. or openings. So you don't talk to each other. What's the difference between this one and the grounded theory? I use ecological model. Organization level, community level, individual level, interpersonal level. I come up with this theoretical background. So it's not grounded. I have theoretical background. I try to fit my data, I fit them according to this theme or theoretical model. This is the risk factor for isolation. Supportive, positive factor, if you have organization, like Arab student organization, you may have support. Community supportive outside the group, if you are a member in the church, if you are a member in the mosque, you feel you are supported. So I mentioned we have convergent, we have exploratory, we have explanatory mixed method. Now we have embedded. Embedded, that means it's a small part embedded in large part. We have transformative, we have multi-phase. We will talk about this in the next couple slides. Embedded, when we have one type embedded inside the other one. For example here, quantitative, quantitative post-test. The qualitative, the way of the intervention, we do it qualitatively. That means, for example, you have behavioral intervention and you have test. The way of intervention was qualitative. So it's embedded, it's within the large other phase. Embedded, it's usually something inside the other. We usually, for example, have concurrent embedded design. We have mostly quantitative, but we embedded qualitative process inside. So we have the same one. We have embedded qualitative. Embedded sequential, this one was concurrent at the same time. This one is sequential. We are done with the quantitative, we come to the qualitative. After we're done, we come to the transformative. This one is, we have collaborative data before the intervention, then we have the quantitative in two phases. Keep in mind, we may able to quantify our, for example, at the survey with Dr. Mary, we have survey. In the survey we have two results, quantitative results and qualitative. I transformed one of the result, which is the open-ended question, to results. I can transform it, this qualitative to quantitative, which is not easy one, but I can do it. I can give it numbers, content analysis. If we talk about the time, we have either parallel at the same time, concurrent, or sequential. Sequential when we have dependent. One rely on the results of the other. This is in terms of time. So the time conversion mixed method is transfer. I already talked about this one. We have multi-level. We have I don't feel comfortable to do fully integrated mixed method. Fully integrated mean it's integrated at the method section, at the result section, and at the, for me, I don't have experience to do maybe in the future, but so far my point of integration at the discussion section. We already talked about different mixed method. Either we have the major qual plus quant, that means this is concurrent or parallel. This one is inductive. Inductive means it's qualitative driven. While deductive is quantitative driven. The measure is quantitative. So here inductive, we generate theory. In the deductive, we test the theory. In the quantitative, we test the theory, called deductive. In the qualitative, we develop the theory, we call inductive. So I think it's very important to read the whole chapter, because I don't have time at this lecture to explain these more about inductive, but in general, it's one is develop theory. Why we need to test the theory? Quantitative is the best method to test the theory, because at the quantitative, we generalize our findings, because we tested on large number of people. At the substandard falsified, we met 12 people at the pharmaceutical company representative, only 12. We cannot generalize. Mashani. Keep in mind, we have already limitation at the qualitative phase. One of them, we cannot generalize data. It's on a small sample size. So you don't have to put them in the qualitative, in the limitation section, because everyone knows qualitative study has limitation of cannot generalize data, and small size is acceptable. So small size is acceptable for qualitative study. It's not limitation. It's part of the study. So you don't expect someone do qualitative study on 100%. You cannot tell them you need to reach 100, because it's a qualitative study. So it's not limitation, small sample size. But in the quantitative part, it's a limitation. You have sample size, you need to generalize your data. So keep in mind, if we need to generalize data, you need to use quantitative. If we need to develop theory, we need to use qualitative. We already talked about the deductive mean it's driven by quantitative. Inductive, it's qualitative. Now I will explain the most important design from my point of view, which is the exploratory mixed method. Exploratory, we use it when we come to the field. We don't have, for example, previous data. We don't have previous idea. Before we come to the quantitative, we need to do some interviews to understand the root of a problem before we go to generalization. So for example, at the substandard falsified study, we had some survey from other countries, but we thought at that time those are not customized to Iraqi culture. Iraqi culture has, or Iraqi, sorry, private sector has unique characteristics. So we believed it's better to do interview to understand the situation better before we develop the survey. Because the already validated survey at that time was, for example, can meet 60 or 70% of the Iraqi, for example, the culture or situation. So to fit better, we need to hear from other people. So we purposefully selected pharmaceutical company representative, especially those with large international companies. We interviewed them, especially those with brand medications, because most falsified medicines usually with the brand, they're usual for brands, because nobody will come and do, for generics. Generics already, it's, as low cost. So the people, those try to use falsified for the brand. So we purposefully interviewed pharmaceutical company. They are innovators. They have brand medications in Iraqi market. So exploratory, it's sequential. It could be Qualitative, big, and then quantitative. The size could be the opposite. We could have small qualitative, large quantitative, or both equal. It depends on your study. But doesn't have to be both equal. It could be one of them small, the other one is the large. It depends. For example, if you do, for example, large interviews with large number of participants, and you only do survey for small number. So the big one with the qualitative, and the opposite. The integration, as I mentioned, we have two sequential methods. We need to integrate them, to integrate their results at some point. And as I mentioned, for my study, we did it at the discussion. Why we do exploratory mean explore. If we need to develop instruments, survey, for example, survey instruments, we need to develop them. We have to have exploratory or qualitative phase at the beginning. What's your unit of analysis? Unit of analysis are either after we transcribe or recording, I need to code either one sentence, one paragraph, one phrase. This is the unit of analysis. What's your unit of analysis? Do you deal with single sentence or you take the whole paragraph, then you code it? It depends on your data and your... What's the quan, what's the qual? You need to define in the method clearly. You are doing exploratory mixed method, the phase one qualitative, phase two quantitative. Why you are doing this? Because I need to develop survey from the phase one, and I need to test or to generalize the findings in the phase two or quant. You need to justify why you are doing and what are you doing, what each phase means, what's the reason behind each phase. Your audience, they expect you explain why you are doing mixed method. Not all audience or researcher, they are familiar with the mixed method. Okay? You may draw something like this in your method to make sure qual first, quant second. It's better. What's your unit of analysis? Analytic. We need to also mention the analytic. Did you use grounded theory, thematic analysis, content analysis? You cannot mix it with the, it's hard to mix it with the statistical analysis. You need to have separate, and even the results. Your result, you may call the result findings. And analysis, you call them thematic analysis instead of, so you have different terminologies. Even in the title, if it's qualitative only, you cannot use assessment or measurement. You usually use explore. Exploratory mixed method, this is our study about substandard falsified medicine for the high diploma student, Mina, with the co-advisor, Dr. Manan Mohamed Yunus from the Ministry of Health. We, as mentioned, we conducted phase one interviews with pharmaceutical company representatives, then phase two survey to the pharmacist. Theme, sub-theme, quotes. Each participant of the interview have P1 to P12. For example, detecting substandard falsified medicine in the private market. Representative pharmaceutical companies, bureaus detect substandards in community pharmacy and provide reports. We have only one theme. I will take this one. Developing and distributing of substandard alerts to drug sort. So we have different people doing the distributing the alerts. We have the developing substandard alerts between pharmaceutical company responsible to the Iraqi Pharmacovigilance Center. We have the syndicate of Iraqi pharmacists distribute alert to community pharmacy. We have the pharmaceutical company, they will take the alerts and distribute it. And each one of those sub-theme we have representative code. As you can see, we selected the most representative codes. We have one complete sentence with full meanings. I didn't choose the one with yes we have or something like that, like short one. We usually choose the most representative codes. We use them in our results. We are done with the exploratory. We had to explore first. Now we come to explanatory. Explanatory, we have quantitative survey, but we have questions about the interpretation of findings. Why? For example, when we surveyed people or patients about Iraqi medicines, national medicine, they give us some reasons why they didn't use it. And we needed answer from the stakeholder. Okay, sorry. أنا لازم أسوي mute. Explanatory design. We needed answer or needed explanation to our okay, this is our study. Determine the national drug products acceptance across patient, pharmacist, manufacturer. It's better to put a mixed method study terms at the end, because this will identify your study is mixed method. Sometimes if you use qualitative, also it's better to use qualitative study. So some journals, they like you need to identify your design. A clinical trials, natural trial, a prospective cohort study, cross-sectional study, whatever, to make it clear, okay? In this study, we did survey for patients, we did interview with Iraqi National Pharmaceutical Company representative. For example, we have the theme of lack of financial support. One of them, they say, no custom or tax exemption. ما عندنا إعفاء ضريبي. شوف إيش راح يقول هذا. There is no tax exemption or custom exemption. We pay 150 million Iraqi dinars place tax and 100 million Iraqi dinars annual tax, so there is no net benefit. يقول احنا كلها مقضيها ندفع tax. الاخ يقول no governmental. هذا صار ثيم اخر. اثنين طبعا under الثيم اللي هو lack financial governmental financial support. There should be facilitated loans, يعني ديون يعني قروض ميسرة يصحوا له بالعراقي. There was industrial initiative, but it didn't get activated and allocated money. We need money, like now we have tablet line needs $5 million for renovation and updated, and there are no facilitated loan and no financial. الآخر شو يقول? There should be financial support to use because we support pharmaceutical security in the country. Theme: importing raw product is lengthy and complicated. Import license from import license يعني إجازة استيراد from MOH for controlled substance like codeine takes about a year. Talking about active ingredient, and we can have the whole year ends. To actual import didn't go through because of lengthy routine. هم ينطوها سنة واحدة واحتمال تخلص السنة وهم بعدنا مستوريين. Representative code. شفت شلون معبر؟ يعني من تقرأ تحس بالألم، تحس بالريبرزنتيشن، بالفيلينجز مالتهم. يعني ما اختارينا واحد قال إيه أكو financial concern وخلاص. لا، اختارينا واحد you need to select representative one. يعني you can feel it. Type of mixed method أعتقد هاي embedded حكينا عنها. Triangulation, explanatory, exploratory. We already talked about the explanatory اللي هي qualitative second one، واللي هنا بالعكس هاي يمكن أكو ناقص X. ناقص exploratory هم هذا ما ادري جبتها من يا مصدر. فخلوكم بالكتاب مالتكم، الكتاب مالتكم تكست بوك هو الستاندرد. exploratory اللي هو qualitative then quantitative. explanatory quantitative first then those YouTubes you can give you some tips about use DDoS.com. It's software you can help you. It can help you to analyze your qualitative data. So it can help you. I'm not sure if it's free or not, but those YouTubes will help you to use the DDoS. References, I borrowed some slides from the University of Iowa College of Education's mixed method course, and I use this main source. Thank you so much, and if you have any question.